Okay, so it's 10:06 now. Once again, thank you. Good morning to everyone. This is Milan Desai from Easy Data Munch. We are going to talk about today the data management and governance in Power BI and Click. As part of our Power BI and Click webinar series, part 4 today, we already had 3 parts that we did on visualization, data transformation, ETL, and the architecture and scalability and big data management capabilities in both these tools last time. So continuing with the data management governance process, before we start, let's quickly look at what are typical key results areas or KPIs that we try to provide BI solutions around in sales, finance, executive management, marketing and production management, risk management and compliance, HR and operations, procurement and information technology. Easy Data Munch, as a team, we have BI solutions that spans across all of these functional areas. We have more than 150 templates that are available for business users and IT departments to choose from, including the predefined data models that will work with Click and Power BI and any other technologies. The platforms that we support today, Microsoft BI Stack and the Click, and we also support Spark and Hadoop in terms of big data and R from predictive analytics perspective. We are also putting a footprint on IBM Watson Analytics going forward. Some of the industry applications, these are BI apps which are ready to go. We have one of the largest portfolio of applications out there in the BI space. So we are looking at different industries, retail, hospitality, insurance, healthcare, manufacturing, energy, and all. And we also have different functional specs, applications, and if there are specific applications which are very unique to specific use case. Going forward, we'll start with Click as a platform, like we always do. So Click platform, again, just a high-level visual. It allows you self-service data visualization, provides you guided analytics in terms of centrally deployed applications, embedded analytics where you can embed the analytics within your websites or applications that you may have, and custom analytics where you can build custom analytics for consumption by internal, external users, executive management, and also reporting and collaboration through N-printing, which is a product Click has acquired, which allows you offline distribution of reports in Excel templates or PowerPoint or Word or PDF. So provides a very high level of capabilities from self-service to reporting. As a platform overview, so Click has 2 products as we all discussed a few times. So ClickView and ClickSense. We will focus on ClickSense on during this webinar. ClickView is an older product, but it has been kept upgraded. They just came out with the release 12. And at some point of time, Click will have a strategy to integrate these 2 products. There is a fair amount of integration as of today as well. But it's just that the UI and some of the things that you can do in ClickView and ClickSense are a little bit different today. So ClickSense is a platform. There's a Sense Hub, basically allows you to do drag and drop development, analysis, and self-service. And mind you, the hub is a web-based component, so you are actually doing development and all these things in a web mode. There is no desktop needed for this. Though ClickSense has a desktop that you can download for free from Click's website. Click Management Console, that's nothing but your administrative console, which allows you to manage centrally all the ClickSense deployments, so servers, publishing, data refreshes, data connections, auditing, deployment, everything that users, everything that you have is managed by Click Management Console. ClickSense Proxy, these are nothing but internal proxies that manages authentication, so SAML authentication, Active Directory authentication. If you have a ticket exchange or a single sign-on kind of process, you can do that. It also manages your sessions and licensing, so that's another thing that ClickSense Proxy manages. And also load balancing. So if you are deployed ClickSense in a clustered environment, it will also manage load balancing across servers. ClickSense Engine. This is basically Click's proprietary associative data indexing engine, which is the reason why Click is so powerful and so good in terms of performance and scalability. Scheduler basically allowing you to set your refreshes and data loads with connections to your various data sources or databases. Repository is nothing but your centralized storage deployment. So basically all your application, which are nothing but ClickView files and other information that has been centrally stored in terms of repository. And ClickSense application, which is nothing but a combination of your data, your UI, your business rules, and everything that is put into in-memory application. So how does it application sync work within Qlik? So if you, as you can look at from this diagram, application works when the central node maintains all the applications and QED data. QED is nothing but a ClickView encrypted, highly compressed data file. So when you connect to a data source or a database or a table, ClickView's best practices basically tells you that you should create a QED file which allows you to compress the data and encrypts the data into a ClickView file. And when you load the data from this file, your load process is very, very fast and also allows you to share and distribute these ClickView files across multiple users. So if you have 5 users within your organization, let's say, who are using the same sales data or sales table data, then you can build a QED file for sales data, and that the same file can be used by 5 users. So you're now restricting the connections from these 5 users to your source tables, and that's a very huge thing, especially when you may not have active data warehouse, or you may have some data marts, and there is a need to connect to live systems. For example, we have clients who connect directly live to Salesforce data sources, and in that case, having a QED file helps because you can manage your connections to cloud-based systems. So QED is the other advantage of QED, and let's quickly go to that. And this slide, I think, so this is important before we jump to the application sync. QED files allows you to create an N-tier architecture within Qlik's environment, and I think that this is very important because when you build these QED files from your data sources, you can aggregate them, you can combine them, so you can have a sales data, customer data, product data, order data, and you can combine them into a data model, right? Mash it up, and then present that data model to your end users to consume to build their UI ad hoc self-service reporting, or you can build offline reporting using imprinting. So I think so from that perspective, Qlik has a smart way of doing things because you are creating highly compressed, highly efficient data files, and these data files can then be transformed or aggregated using Qlik's ETL capabilities, transformation capabilities, and aggregation capabilities. And also you can combine them across data sources. And once you do that, you basically have a business model or a data model that can be then used by the various business users or IT team to build reports and charts and so on. One of the other advantages of QED files is if you have a data source that's huge, let's say 500 million records on your data set, and it is into GBs of space, it will be compressed by Qlik's proprietary technology. So it is going to basically bring down that size, data set size, to almost 15-20 times lower. So that's a huge amount of savings when you're trying to do in-memory analytics. And then we'll talk about it when we go to Power BI. Yeah. So application sync perspective, you have a repository of QED files, and you have your applications which are basically connected or using this QED file. And then you have a scheduler which allows you to refresh this QED file. So basically you have a connection that is being made, which is connecting to your data source and bringing this QED file. And this connection can be set to update your data in the QED every 5 minutes, every 15 minutes, every half an hour, every hour, every day, but depending upon the frequency of updates that you want to see. One of the biggest difference between Qlik's refresh frequency and Power BI. Power BI being a cloud-based service, it allows you only 10,000 records per call. That's one. It doesn't allow you more than 1 million records per day. And those are some of the things which are restrictive because Click, there is nothing like a call. You can refresh the data as many times as you want, however you want. I think one of the other things that Power BI does today is there is no incremental load. You have to reload your entire data set. There is no way you can say, I want to load only today's updated data or yesterday's updated data, or give me data only in last 1 hour that has been there, or give me data which is updated and new. So those are the kind of combination that you may have, which is real-time scenarios, which Power BI doesn't address today, which Click addresses very well. So those are some of the things when you get into the product, start playing around with it. These are some of the things that you have to see because these are the things that makes life easier on the development side or the IT side to do the data governance, and from the business side because they are getting what they want because they don't want to wait for 1 day to get the data that they are seeing today. So if the sales pipeline is moving during the day and if the sales director want to see what's going on, as of now from Salesforce, you want to do the data refresh every 15 minutes from Salesforce. And that's what Click allows today. Going to the repository sync, I think that this is the same thing where Scheduler allows you to maintain the repository of QED files and applications. So it's basically a tiered approach where you have QED files getting refreshed, then you have your application getting refreshed, and then you have basically application published to the various users who can then now look at that application. So in this tiered approach, you can do data level security, you can do application level security, you can do field level or a file level or even a chart level security. So those are some of the various, I would say, exhaustive way in which security can be set within Click's environment. Again, when we go to Power BI, we'll see how the security can be set at a data set or a content pack level, but you can't really set security at a chart level in Power BI. So I think so this is the data layer repair patterns we saw earlier in terms of how we can build different data marts or click marts within Click using the QED file concept. So what is a self-governance BI? And this is where I think the Click shines as a product compared to most of the products out there in the BI space today, where you can provide this files or this data packs or data marts, including the applications, for direct consumptions to your users. So you can directly publish them once an IT team or a business user develops it. Or you can even send it to somebody else, like a business analyst. After building to some extent from the IT side, you can send it to a business user who can personalize it more. When I say personalize, we can add more trending, more charting. You can put some different KPIs that you want to add, but they're still working on the same data model or the data mart that you created within Click's environment. And you can also extend it to consumers and contributors. So basically, when you publish it, they can consume it. They can also add it using the development hub. I think so that's where there are different ways in which Clicks allows you to extend and build the applications for discovery, for analysis perspective. On the same single version of data. I think that's the key because you don't want these data models to be created because I can say a company name in let's say I have a customer table and I have a company name in my customer table and I also have a company name in my vendor table, right? A business users can keep the name as is, and now when you get this data together, I can get confused or somebody else can get confused because which company are we referring to? Are we referring to a customer company? Are we referring to a vendor company? Whereas when you build these models, data marts from the IT or governance perspective, you can decide and define that, hey, this is a customer company name, this is a vendor company name. So anybody who is going to use this data mart going forward will only understand that, okay, there's a separate column called customer company name and a vendor company name. So there is no confusion in terms of what you're analyzing or what data you're trying to analyze. So Click's metadata governance, as we just saw, some of the things that Click Management Console or Administrative Console allows you is the license monitor. So it allows you complete understanding what kind of licenses you are using, who is using those licenses, how many times they're using. I think the Qlik is one of the most powerful administrative platform which allows its own application to manage and govern what's going on. Operations monitors a governance dashboard which is provided by Qlik itself. And the good thing is you can add to it. So Qlik allows you complete usage history, servers, more health, how much time it takes to load, how many users are coming, how many sessions are there, are there any warnings, any errors, all those information, all that information you can look at using Qlik. Streams, the streams that are basically published, so you have sales stream, you may have finance stream, you may have procurement stream or an HR stream. So different streams and applications within those streams, you can look at and understand how things are happening within that. In the application master, so master items library, so you have a master items library, I think, so we showed during the visualization demo, that you can create a master dimension or a master measure or a master chart or an object which you can use across your applications. And that's, again, something that you can manage, you can see using that in the application layout. And the deployment console, which allows you to do site management. So are you in a clustered environment? Do you have single server, multi-server environment, or a global deployment? How many nodes you may have, and how many tasks are running, and basically how much time it takes to run this task, how many times they're successful, are there any errors, there is an escalation, and things like that. So again, a complete metadata management and governance management is provided right out of the box. And there are more tools that you can use within the Qlik applications that allows you to do and add to what Qlik provides today. Let's look at the security aspect. I think that this is one of the areas that we want to understand how really it works within your environment if you would choose to deploy this in your environment or on cloud. So as you can see, there are contributors and consumers. There's a proxy setting which allows you a single sign-on with Active Directory or other SAML providers. There is an authorization rules engine which basically allows you to select who will have access to what application. So basically, if you look at Qlik's architecture, there are 3 levels of authentication and security. So you have an authorization level which will allow you to say, okay, who will have access to Qlik's web portal. Let's say that is based on a single sign-on. So if you are part of the Active Directory, yes, you will get access to it if that group is allowed access to. Second is, once you get access to the Qlik's application portal or hub, what applications you can see, and that is based on the streams you are part of and authorization rules that are being set. So if you are only part of the sales team, you are going to see only sales data. If, you are not going to see employee and HR-related data, which is part of the HR stream. But if you're in HR or if you're a CFO or executive stream, then you may see sales, you will see HR, you will see something else, operations and other stuff. So that's how it's set. And then at the data level, if you're a sales person who is looking after companies, customers only in the West Coast, then you will see only data pertaining to those customers. And if you're a salesperson who is looking after customers in East Coast, then you're going to look at data only pertaining to those customers. So that's how Qlik allows you a multi-level security, as you can see here. So there is an authentication, which is HTTP headers, which is a ticket-based process, session APIs, or Active Directory. You have an authorization process, LDAP or Active Directory, again, ODBC, so you can have a custom user directory, basically. Or you can build something in QlikSense native, so you can create users within QlikSense server, and then basically allows you data authorization based on what's your role within the organization and what data you should see at the role level. Section access, which is what Qlik calls it, it's data level authorization process. As you can see here, once you log in, if you're an admin role or a user role, there are basically 2 roles within Qlik's framework. If you are a user role, either you are a user A or user B or user C. So based on what level of user you are and what's your role, you are seeing the data based on which user you are. If you're an admin, then you're going to see all data. So that's how the section access of the data authorization piece works within the Qlik architecture. What are the streams? I think I briefly explain. So say there is a sales stream or a finance stream or everyone stream or executive stream. So Click Send server allows you to create different streams. By default, it comes with my work and everyone. These are the default streams. But you can go ahead and create as many streams as you want. These are nothing but, I would say, you can say them as the folders or content structures, which basically houses multiple applications. So when you're publishing an application, you are basically publishing them in a specific stream. So I can say this is a financial application, it's a daily forecast application or sales analysis application. I'm publishing in a sales stream on a finance stream, or I can say I'm going to publish this in everyone's stream. So everybody who has access to that stream or that specific content repository, they can look at that application, they can play around with it, they can build, they can add, and things like that. So this is how ClickSense allows you to govern application access from the streams process. This is a Click Management Console. The idea was to show basically how the console looks like. So you have management of content, so apps and content libraries, data connections. So those are some of the things that you can set within Management Console. It will give you basically a central way to manage all of these things. So manage your content, manage your resources, and everything becomes part of the same governance model as you can see here. So this is a very intuitive, very easy to use interface, and it's pretty easy to set it up and then monitor and see the compliances that you may have within the architecture or within the security and data governance standard that you may have within your organization. Management console example, so you have an audit process where you're looking at, okay, what kind of connections you have, who have access to those connections, who have access to those applications. Then you're looking at usage history and proxy connection history and server health and so on and so forth. So you can also go back and look at, okay, you have, let's say, 50 named user license. Then are these named user license, how many times they're actually logging into the servers, how many times they're active, how many sessions they have, what application they are looking into. Not at the application, you can also look at which charts they are looking at. And that's one of the things that, because a lot of times you will see a business user will build a lot of charts and analysis within their application, but users are only looking at 10 charts instead of the 50 that he has built into the application. So you know that this application, though it has a lot of stuff, users are not really using it. So you can go back and get that feedback and say that you should probably strip down the application and have only those 15, 20 relevant charts which are mainly consumed by the users. I think that those are very valid feedback mechanism that you can build using Click's Management Console capabilities. Deployment Console allows you to manage your environment. So as I said, you can have an environment which is a single node or multi-node or a clustered, and you can have a load balancing. You can have a global management where you can have something in Asia, something in Europe, something in the US, and you are managing those different users different ways. So this deployment console really allows you to scale and manage your deployments across the entire enterprise. And I think that that's a very big step within Click's management environment. Click has multiple roles, so you have a root admin role, you have a deployment admin, you have audit admin, you have management console admin. So there are different roles which Click allows you, so that way you can set up different users from segregation of control. Let's say you have an infrastructure team, you have a platform team, you have a development team, and you have user team. So you can give different roles and different things, so that users can do their own respective activities. Example of ClickView deployment model. So as you can see, there are cloud deployments. So you can very well put the whole thing in your private cloud or a public cloud in Amazon or Azure or anything like that. You can do global deployments, that's like geographically distributed deployments. You can break each component of Clicks and then you can actually deploy them. So ETL component, repository component, analytics component, which is application component, and then hardware. So, and all of these can be managed and synced using the same central management console. So the console key is just one, but you are still having a distributed architecture and infrastructure, and that is one of the That's a big thing in terms of how you can manage the whole thing. We have customers who are using this in a clustered environment, highly complex infrastructure environment, having 4,000 or 5,000 users and more than 100 applications. And it's a fairly easy process that they have this one administrative person who is managing as an overall admin, but you can then segregate across infrastructure, platform, development, and so on and so forth. Scaling, how do you can do scaling using Qlik's platforms? Again, deployment scenario perspective, you can do routing and load balancing, as I mentioned. You can do it at application level, at a web server level. You can do it at a scheduling and refresh level. So each component can be clustered. Each component can be put into a load balancing and a routing and a mechanism whereby you can give as much scalability as you can provide. So Qlik allows vertical scalability and horizontal scalability. So vertical scalability perspective, you can add more RAM and more CPU firepower to actually scale up the number of users that you're trying to manage. At the same time, you can also do horizontal scaling using the load balancing and cluster environment. So this was Qlik. You can put your questions in the chat window, and I will try and address them. We'll have a 10-minute session where we'll address all your questions. So you can start typing your questions as and when you get it. Let's look at Power BI. Again, a very high-level Power BI. We are talking about Power BI in terms of the infrastructure and architecture. As you can see here, it has content packs, dashboards, visualizations, reports, data sets, and then you have a Power BI desktop and a REST API. What is Power BI? Power BI, I think the last time we mentioned, it is not a platform by itself. It is nothing but a cloud-based business analytics service because it needs a lot of different components to make it a platform, which is what Microsoft has provided. So you have Azure Analytics Services, Azure Database, Azure Cloud. So there are a lot of those things you have to combine with Power BI to make it look like a platform that we're talking about. Power BI architecture, as you can see, it's a very complex architecture. So you have Excel workbook-based architecture, Power BI service-based architecture, then you have reports and dashboards, your SQL Server, your direct query, your data management gateway, Power BI desktop, cloud-based data that you will have, and sharing a collaboration based on Active Directory and Azure Active Directory and some of those Office 365 unified groups and things like that. So it's a pretty complex architecture in terms of, as I said, Power BI service is just the middle portion here that we see here. This is Power BI service, but everything else is actually a component provided by within Microsoft as a different I would say packages and solutions that combine holistically make this as a platform. It's a software as a service. It's a SaaS service, so it obviously doesn't need any hardware per se, unless from the BI service perspective. But you obviously need infrastructure either in your own organization, or you need an Azure infrastructure in cloud to have your data and other data sources. And we'll talk about it in just a bit. So what is Power BI data management architecture looks like? So this is Power BI architecture at a very high level. So you have Power BI tenant, which is basically Q&A, admin center, data catalog, and Power BI sites. And then you have either a cloud-based data sources or on-prem data sources, which are accessed by Power BI service for data refreshing. You have SQL, Oracle, or data accesses, or Excel, or you may have some other cloud-based systems. So there are connectors provided by Microsoft, so you can connect to Salesforce or Google Analytics or any other cloud-based data source. There are about 50 connectors available right now, which you can connect. So Qlik has close to similar 50 connectors or more, and then there are other third-party connectors available where you can connect. They all both support REST APIs, so you can connect pretty much any other data source. So this is how a Power BI's data management architecture looks like at a 30,000 feet level. Let's go a little bit deeper. So live Power BI reports and dashboard, which you have in the Microsoft Cloud, and then you have a live query running against the data sets or scheduled refreshes. So what's the difference between live query and scheduled refresh? A live query is nothing but your dashboards are there in the Power BI Cloud, PowerBI.com, which are basically connected using the data management gateway directly to the data source. So data doesn't really come within. It's not loaded in the Power BI service. So your data is outside. So it is not really using in-memory kind of thing. It's more of a connection, SQL connection or whatever connection that you can call it. And it is basically querying. So it is only storing the queries that you build from the charts perspective or dashboard perspective in the cloud, but the queries are executed on your local data sets, which are there within your premises. That's what live query does. When you say scheduled refreshes, it's where the data set itself is put into Power BI Cloud. And the restriction here from that perspective, Power BI supports only 215 megabytes of compressed data at this point of time. It doesn't support anything more than that. So if your data sets are larger and more than 250 megabytes, then you will be forced to use live query only. You cannot use the schedule refreshes and load all your content in Power BI library at this point. Now, these are the things with Power BI, that it is an evolving platform. Microsoft is making a lot of changes. Every week there is a new update going out. So these things will keep changing. So obviously whatever I'm saying today is not going to hold true 6 months down the line, because things will change with this platform, and for better. So I think so. Make sure that you keep an eye on all the updates and changes that are coming in if you're interested in Power BI and what's going on with Power BI as a platform. What is Power BI's delivery model? I think so. Azure is the core of Microsoft in terms of the whole platform that they are bringing in. So you will have the Power BI service running in the Azure cloud, and then you have Azure maintaining all your backend connections and gateways and everything else. And then you have Azure Active Directory, Azure Analytics Server, Azure SQL Server, your Windows Server. Everything is part of the Azure platform that Microsoft provides. And I think so that's where Power BI and in terms of how it basically manages the connections and overall delivery model. How you use published data sets. So Power BI, what Power BI basically does is it connects to the data source, so it gets the data from various data sources. If you're building a live query, then it doesn't really bring the data within Power BI. It basically builds a query. It gets the data, allows you to cleanse and mash up, and then calculation on top of that, and then build reports. The whole of that, all of these left-hand side is basically what we call as a content pack. And once this content pack is created, you basically publish that using the Power BI service on Microsoft PowerBI.com in your private space. So the entire content pack is published now, and then that can be shared with other users within your organization, whereby you can either share the whole content pack, or you can say, I want to share only the data set, or I want to share only a specific dashboard or a report. So that's how Power BI consumption of published data sets is really being used within the organization per se. The heart of the whole Power BI data management is the data management gateway. That's what Microsoft has built. Now, this data management gateway is nothing but it's a one-way scenario. So it only fetches the data. It doesn't write back the data. So the only thing that data management gateway does, it can connect to your on-prem data, obviously. So it only requires an outgoing port to be opened. It doesn't need an incoming port to be opened. And from security perspective, that's a big thing, because you don't want an unwanted connection coming into your infrastructure in your firewall. But what it basically does, it takes the Power BI. It knows the environment that it's dealing with. So it knows Power BI for Office 365. It knows Power BI.com as a web service. It knows Azure Data Factory. So it knows its environment from where the connection is coming in or where the data has to go based on what connection you're building. And then it goes to your on-prem data sources and fetches that data either in a live query format, or it basically fetches the data to put into Power BI to upload. And then basically Power BI will refresh that data. So the data management gateway is basically a negotiator between what's happening in Azure cloud and what's remaining within your on-prem data source. So how the data refreshes will work. So if you can see using this diagram here, so Power BI will say ask for data refresh and check the permission, find the gateway. Now gateway is basically going to send a request to Azure service, which is the data management gateway is going to deal with. Azure Service Bus will send that request. It will to the data management gateway. Data management gateway will make sure that authentication is right. It needs a static authentication, a user ID password, because it can accept dynamic ID password. It's going to take that, go to the source, authenticate, and make sure that the static ID password has the permission to get the data, fetches the data, and sends it back. So this is how the data refreshes will happen using the data management gateway. Network security, some of the ports as we mentioned. So these are some of the ports that you will need to open to work with data management gateway and Power BI, especially for your on-prem data sources that you have. And as I mentioned, these are all outbound ports, as you can see here, 9350 to 9354 or 88443. It doesn't really need any inbound port except if you are looking at data to be loaded. So HTTPS is the standard connection string, and then some of the data sources that you can see here. So it's about 15 minutes right now, and there are other things that we can cover here, but idea was to give a very high level understanding of both Qlik and Power BI in terms of what they are capable of in terms of data management, governance, security. Power BI is still fairly new as a platform right now. It currently supports only 2 levels of authentication. So either you are part of the Office active group where you can get access to Power BI, or you are part of the Active Directory within your organization. It doesn't really support a lot of third-party SAML or ticket exchange process and other things, though we expect that since Microsoft has come out with a Power BI embedded option as well recently, that will open up some of those things as well, which is currently supported by Qlik. The other thing is data level security or row level security within Power BI. So Qlik manages the row level security within its own data management and governance process, whereas for Power BI, for you to make sure that the West Coast salesperson will look at only his customers and East Coast will look at only his customers, you have to implement this data level, row level security within your data source, which is a SQL server or Azure service where the SQL server is hosted. So that's an additional work that you have to do. Now, sometimes you may already have done this work when you build a data mart or a data warehouse, but a lot of times we have seen in customer organization that you really do not have this structure set, and the structures is very fluid, what I would say, because based on who is there and who is not there and things like that, the structure is not very fluid. So obviously you want something to be done in real time when the actual data is presented to the user, and that's what Qlik supports today in a fairly good way. It also allows the performance and scalability of the application, because what Qlik does is, let's say you have an application which has 100 million records, but for West Coast customers are only 20 million records and East Coast is only 15 million records. So what it does is when a sales manager A logs in, he is only seeing 20 million records, even though the main application has 100 million records. So performance-wise, management-wise, it does a very good job, because now it breaks up those files or those data sets and restricts the action directly on those data sets, rather than presenting the whole thing and allows users to do that. So those are some of the things and some of the aspects that you have to keep in mind while working with Power BI and Qlik. The biggest thing that we see in terms of limitation today is a 250 MB file size that Microsoft has restricted from Power BI perspective, and we think that this file size will change as the platform is going to mature, because we think that There are a lot of companies, even the data says that you may use even a couple of years or 3 years worth of data if you want to analyze. You can have more than 250 easily MB size of data, especially when you aggregate data from sales or order or customer and transactional data sets such like that, which you want to analyze using Microsoft capabilities. So I think that both are fairly good platform in terms of how much you can scale. Microsoft Azure is the backbone of the entire Power BI platform, as we can see. We know that it's fairly scalable. You can add nodes, you can add servers, you can add things. So I think so it's pretty robust from that perspective. The management and uptime guarantees are phenomenal with Microsoft Azure. With Qlik is the same thing. Either you do it on-prem or you put it in Azure environment or AWS environment, you get the same scalability that you want. So the advantage of Qlik is it allows you both complete on-prem options if you're an organization which doesn't want to really have any data going anywhere or queries or anything like that or live connection going outside your organization. Then probably Qlik is your platform because it is completely on-prem. There's nothing that is going out of your organization. Whereas Microsoft, though your data is on-prem, you still have Power BI service operating out in the cloud. So from that perspective, you are still exposing your queries or your data transformation layer in the cloud. So that's a trade-off that you have to take in terms of how you really want to work with a solution that is completely cloud-oriented versus something that is completely cloud-oriented but also provides a complete on-prem option. So those are the things. I think so we are almost close to our 10 minutes, last 10 minutes. So I would open up the floor for any questions. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer that. You can type in your question here and I can answer the question. If you have any questions about us, what we do, what kind of applications we have, anything on that side also, we'll be happy to answer. We are actually going to be visiting Qlik's global conference next week in Orlando, Florida, where they're going to announce a lot of new product changes, the new products that they've released, and versions, and also meet a few of the representatives and customers to know how their experience is and what they are using and how they are using Qlik. And we'll come back and share that again through a webinar process where we'll share our findings and talk about basically how things are happening within Qlik's world. And something similar that we are planning to do in Microsoft as well. So keep looking at our website, keep looking at our invitations, and we will surely have more and more going forward during the year. So allow 5 minutes for anybody to type in the questions, and then if there are no questions, we'll appreciate the time. We will publish this video of this webinar on our website and also send out the invites to people who could not join today. And then if you have any questions, my email and our website address is written here. So if you want to reach out to me, you can directly send me an email, and I'll be happy to respond to any questions you may have. So if there are no questions today, I will give one more minute, and otherwise we'll close the webinar today, and I'll give you 10 minutes back of your time. Hopefully that will be useful to you. Okay, so seems like there are no questions today. So again, appreciate everybody to join this morning and work with us on this webinar series. We have one final series left, last part of mashups and geospatial and some other cool stuff that you can do using both these platforms. That will be scheduled after our visit to Clicks conference, so it will be, I think, so on 18th May or something. But do join us there. That's the final series, and we might repeat one of these series as well going forward based on we have received a lot of